And so.
Jen, I like how you just got your head up in there. I had to just get my head up in there.
Me or?
Well, we're working with what we have.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I too close? I mean,
No,
I'm not.
I like you. No, I like the way you're in there, Jenny. I don't know about.
You look good. You look real good.
Oh, I trust you, Jenny.
Okay, so I am I'm going to mute myself. You're recording, and I'm going to mute myself, and then you can give a count of like 5 and start the interview. Does that sound good?
Okay, but you're in the middle, not Ava.
So if you want to change your view, Jenny, you can go up to the top right, and click on just speaker view.
Okay.
And does that make one big box?
No. Let's see. It's checked, but I still see you in the middle and all three of us at the top.
Okay. So
full screen, is that what I should do?
That's just up to you. But remember, what you're seeing is not what the recording is seeing. So if she's in the middle, if I'm in the middle or anything like that, it will change when she starts talking. And
okay.
Then also the recording is recording each window separately. So it's not going to look like what you see on screen. So.
Okay, well, I'll let you know if that doesn't happen.
Okay, and I am going to mute myself right now. Thank y'all so much.
Okay. Well, I'm Catherine Jenny Kilgore, and I am the, organizer of the North Mississippi Rural Legal Services Oral History Project. It's been going on a couple of years, and we have with us today Ava Jackson, who is one of the past employees of the program and also a past executive director. And Ava, your position now is Assistant U.S. Attorney, is that?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. And today, let's see, what is today?
April?
No.
March 8th, March 8th, 2021.
Okay, okay, as March 8th, 2021, and we're talking on Zoom today on camera, and we really appreciate your willingness to come on and share a few of your thoughts about legal services today, Ava. And you and I worked together a long time, so I'm calling you Ava.
Oh, absolutely.
That's okay. And so I first thing I wanted to do, Ava, is ask you, a little bit about yourself, about your past, where you grew up, a little bit about your family, if you could share that.
Okay. You talk about family as in now or family as in past?
Just when you, in the past, where were you born, and where did you grow up, that kind of thing.
I was born in a small town called Preston, Mississippi. Most people never heard of it. But people have heard of Philadelphia, Mississippi. So I lived about 18 miles from Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Okay.
That's where Preston is. I went to high school in DeKalb, Mississippi. And most people have heard of that. John Stennis, a longtime senator, lived there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I went to high school in DeKalb. Graduated high school, attended the University of Mississippi. Received an undergraduate degrees in social work and Bachelor of Public Administration. But I guess a little bit before that, I was the youngest of my mom and dad, 14 children. I was the youngest of that bunch. Youngest of those 14. I grew up on a farm, farming and picking cotton and all those things that farming entails. We grew most everything we ate.
So your father, who was your father?
My father was named Enos Jackson.
Okay.
And my
your
mother was Alma Jackson. Yeah, Alma Connor Jackson. Yeah, so we grew up there, and like I say, we farmed. We were poor, but we were farmers and tried to make a living on the land, and working in those fields made me want to go to school. That was not what I wanted to continue to do. And there were a number of injustices over the years that I witnessed against my family and others, in particular poor people, people of color, that made me think that I want to pursue a profession in the law, and that maybe I could help people, provide some help to people that was not available to my family during those times.
About when was that? That you grew up in Cooper County?
In the 60s and 70s. I graduated from high school in 1975. So so in late 50s, all the 60s and mid 70s.
Could you give us an example of one of the things that you just talked about that happened that helped to motivate you to go to law school and try to help people?
Well, there was one particular incident. My parents had died at this time, and it was my siblings and I living in our home, and we had cows, and there was an adjoining landowner of a different race, or a white landowner, that cut our fence and ran our cows on his property. And we called the sheriff to show him that the fence was cut, that there were horse hooves, showing that these, cows had been taken. And his response to us was, and to my aunt, my father's youngest sister, was that, well, that man was mad at him. There was nothing he could do. And so then he said, well, he could get another guy in the community, another white man, that maybe he could go talk to him and negotiate something for us to get our cattle back. And of course, that guy, it was a price we had to pay to get our own property back. And so I just saw how the law was not available for everyone.
Right. Well, did anyone in particular, one of your parents or your siblings or a teacher, help to motivate you to go on to law school because of these things, or was it just in you?
Well, that was just one of the things. You watch shows, and of course, Perry Mason was a very popular show. And he always got justice for people. They had the right outcome would always come about, but of course that did. And so I just thought I could make a difference. Plus, I thought I would be rich, and have money and all those things. So all those myths, that all those thoughts, those things didn't materialize. But I did end up, because at one time going to school for the first time away from home. My high school was very, I guess, lacking in a lot of areas. So when I came to the University of Mississippi You had to have foreign language and all those things that my high school didn't offer. I realized there was a lot of people that were a lot smarter than I was, and that I really hadn't been exposed to a lot of things that a lot of other people had been exposed to. So one time I thought that maybe I wouldn't be a lawyer, but I did get the grades and was admitted to law school.
Yeah. The times that you got toward graduation from law school, what what motivated you to go to legal services? Was there somebody in particular that talked to you about that, or did you intern
Well,
there?
yeah, I did. It was this lawyers civil rights thing. I got a summer intern that actually had a stipend with it. With legal services, that was probably the only place that law students of color pretty much could find work, and that we were embraced and given the opportunity to be exposed to the law, because I certainly didn't know a lawyer growing up. I never, I didn't know anybody, and I had no knowledge of what, other than what TV showed, and of course I found out the practice of law was a lot different from what we see on TV. So I didn't have that interaction. So I appreciated that legal services allowed that interaction, actually, to see real lawyers doing real things.
Well, was that summer program? Was that Reggie a Reggie program, or do
No,
you remember?
I don't think it was the Reggie. No, it wasn't that. It was the law students for something with civil rights.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it had something to do with civil rights for law students.
Who did you work with that summer?
Let's see, that summer there was of course Leonard McClellan. There was a lady named Yvonne, I believe it was Yvonne Hughes. Yeah. And that so I had a few assignments. I'm trying to think of who else were there. You were there, Jenny.
Was I?
Yeah, you were there. So,
okay.
Yeah. So just different assignments, and then and it was. So that was the first exposure that I had to, like I say, seeing lawyers and actually kind of getting just a little bit of what was entailed, that there was more paperwork involved than we realized. It was just a lot more involved than you would think, just standing on the outside, never having been exposed to that type of environment.
Right. So you went ahead then and applied at that point through who was the director?
Jesse Pennington was the director, I believe, at the time. Okay. And when I graduated law school, legal services just had taken a big hit, cut budget reduction hit, and so that first year when I graduated, there were no jobs available. And I worked for a year with Thomas Morris down in Cleveland, Mississippi. I remember James Minor. He worked at the law school at that time. I didn't know any lawyers. I didn't know anybody. I sent out a bunch of resumes. All of got rejection letters. And I remember him taking me to Cleveland, Mississippi. I had no idea how to get to Cleveland, Mississippi. Never been there, and taking me over to Thomas Morris's office. So I always appreciated James Minor. I've always had, somehow had good people put in my path, and I'm thankful for that. So, but he took me there, gave me an interview, and Thomas Marks gave me a job. So I worked there a year. And then after that, Legal Services was able to start hiring. And then, I moved back. That was in, so I started with Legal Services in January of '83
Okay.
in the Grenada office. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I had forgotten that you started there. And many people have talked about legal services sort of being their training ground
Oh,
for
yeah.
young Black lawyers then, and it was actually for me as well. So, uh, so how long did you work in Grenada?
I worked in Grenada probably a year and a half, a couple of years, and Leon Johnson was the managing attorney. So, and he taught me a lot. And so, and Eileen Richardson, she was the paralegal there. She was knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So ran into some good people there. And like I say, I was always thankful for James Manor, thankful for Thomas Marsh giving me my first job, and thankful for Legal Services hiring me. And I worked there.
I'm sorry.
No, that's yeah, I worked there.
What was it like on a day-to-day basis? What kind of cases did you handle then mostly?
Oh, well, it was still a lot of family law, divorces, a lot of bankruptcies, some child custody issues. And I remember one case that we had a trial on, and there was we ended up having this trial. It was a child had been taken from the mother. That she was probably like a baby when she was taken. And 6 or 7 years had passed, and the family that had this child was wanting to adopt this adopted little girl. And so she was probably about 5, 6 years old now. And the only family she knew pretty much, but because of the flaws and the system and the way that the child was removed from the home, the lack of efforts to reunite the family, the lack of it was just a poorly handled case from that point of taking the child, removing the child, and the lack of efforts of trying to get this family reunited. And the mother did not want to relinquish her parental rights. She wanted her child. And we were successful. Like I say, Leon Johnson, he definitely was the lead attorney and did a thorough job. And the child was returned to the mother. And that's kind of a thing you just don't know, what just your family should be united. The law has to be followed. Mm-hmm. And even though, you felt bad for the child, you felt bad for the family that had taken care of the child. It was, so every situation, every win that make you feel great, but you just have to do what is right, and what the law has to be followed. We have to represent our clients, and that was a case of a poor client had not been, given a fair opportunity. It should have never gone that far without trying to reunite that family, and given the opportunity and the efforts that the law required for reuniting, attempts to reunite a family.
Right. And so are there other important things, cases or advocacy efforts that you made during that time that you wanted to relate? Or that?
No, that's the only one that, just stands out. Yes, yeah. Some of them, you remember more so than others. And not that one case is more important than another. It's just some, you're pretty, you're just torn about, or you just,
Right.
But you know, in the end, that you have to represent your client and see that the law was followed, so that
Exactly.
mistake would not be made again. You know, hopefully.
So, where did you go from there?
I went to Tupelo, the office there in Tupelo, and I became manager attorney of the Tupelo office. And I was there for probably maybe a year, couple of years there in Tupelo.
And from there,
To Holly Springs.
oh my gosh, I had forgotten that you had been in all these offices.
Yeah. So I was at manager attorney at Holly Springs. I was trying to get closer back to Oxford. I was living in Oxford.
Yeah.
And so I did got to Holly Springs. And I was not in Holly Springs a long time before a position opened and came in Oxford. And I believe I took a staff attorney position in Oxford just to get back to Oxford.
Okay. What do you recall about the community connection? Since you worked in all of those offices, you really had a wide range of experience with the client community in Grenada, Tupelo, Holly Springs, Oxford. Um, what was important about the connection with client community and legal services, do you think?
Yeah, I think that at that point we had a good connection. We had people knew that they had a place that they could go, that there was a resource available for them, and especially in certain issues. And I think at that time we had paralegals that would work in the community. We had these community meetings. We had community people on our board of directors and just community advisors. I can't remember exactly what the title was. That made the presence of legal services known in the community, and often told people about the availability of services. So I thought that was a really good community connection, and we were a lot of people's last resort. They would take their hard-earned money by trying to get transportation. We remember a lot of those vehicles wouldn't get them home, or wouldn't last a week. Yeah. And so poor people, just as when I was growing up, and even to today, are being taken advantage of, and they generally don't have they don't have the resources because of their economic status to fight these disadvantages they are facing. And legal services at that time was available to
Right.
Had more of we wasn't as restricted on the type of services that could be provided.
Right. Do any particular community member who was an advocate that stands out in your mind?
Well, Mildred Quarles was going to always be an advocate. You had Earlene Gardner over in the Tupelo area. You had Miss down in Lexington area. So that name I thought I hadn't forgotten. It just escapes me. But,
That's okay.
but yeah.
So coming back to Oxford, what was it like practicing law back in those days in Oxford? As a young Black attorney, any particular experiences you want to tell young folks about that when you were coming up, how it was?
Well, I think the work, you felt good. You felt like you were, actually making a difference in people's lives, whether it was dealing with a child custody issue, or maybe a divorce, or maybe a domestic violence situation, or a lemon vehicle, that was just, that the seller knew that was no good. I
Sure.
mean, those cases, you knew that you were making an impact for that family right then, right there. The work was meaningful. And sometimes when you're not, I would say, even like now, I don't really deal with individuals. I'm dealing with agencies. So
What does your work now consist of?
well, now I represent federal agencies, so I do kind of miss the people and the impact that it had on individuals, and just meeting different people. Because now I don't really meet the different people. I don't really know the lawyers in town because I'm not dealing with local issues per se. It's just whatever in North Mississippi, or whatever agency that may be having the issue, or that or maybe that needs representing, whether it's in the IRS and a bankruptcy situation, or or USDA for whatever reason, a farming situation, or
Sure.
the postal service with a auto accident, or things is different. Whereas I'm representing agencies instead of people. And
Right.
so you don't, even though I still want to do my job, and I try to do it thorough and do it well. And you just miss the people.
Yeah.
And the other lawyers, locally.
Sure. Well, could you, later on, you became executive director for
Yes.
North Mississippi Rural Legal Services. And that was for many years during my time there. And I remember that you gave me my start as the elder law project director. And I just wondered if you could relate to us what um, the most important things you think you did as executive director, what it was like.
Well, during my tenure as executive director, we had all the 10 branch offices, then administrative office with 10. So we were, so starting that tenure, we still had all our offices. We had probably about 70 so employees, and probably over $3 million budget. So, and that, at the thing with legal services was, to make sure you're complying with all the federal regulations. Every year you had to reapply for the grant. It was a yearly thing at that time. But we had, even though we had that, it was the challenge was that we didn't we didn't, with that budget, we didn't have the money to pay people what they were worth. I mean, people worked hard at legal services. People deserved more, but we just didn't have the budget to reward that work adequately. Those are the things that I wish Congress and others, value the services that legal services provided to people that just had no other recourse, and would have been left without any relief had we not been there. So those are what some of the more challenging aspects of the job. And but we did, good work. Of course, we had the heirs litigation until the Legal Services Corporation and Congress forced us out of that we could not do class actions anymore. That program had been very instrumental in, voting right cases, civil rights cases, prison litigation, that you did a lot of, Jenny. And so we were cut away from doing the cases that would impact the more broader section of the community, and we were restricted to just handling. We couldn't do any more class actions. We couldn't do any. We were restricted on the voting rights, the civil rights, the things that could impact the more people. We were just more restricted to trying to help a person with a divorce, family law, bankruptcy, saving a home, things of that nature. And even though those things are important, it just took out the ability to do more complex litigation that would affect, would help more people across the board.
So, explain who caused those restrictions to anyone watching this that doesn't understand about the funding. Was it Congress? I think that.
Yeah. Where the Congress would put in restrictions, and the Legal Services Corporation a lot of times would go to Congress seeking these restrictions. Even though we got the funding from there, it wasn't always on the side of the poor people.
Yeah.
They wanted to restrict us to, and did restrict us to, if we didn't get out, because at the biggest class action we had at the time was the heirs litigation. And then Congress came and said, no class actions, Legal Services Corporation, no class action. So we had to get out of that case, or else we'd be defunded. We wouldn't have had no program. And we didn't have enough independent funding to survive without the legal services money. We didn't have any private funding or funding from other sources that was not restricted. So, we had no choice to save the program. Because even if we had say, okay, we're not gonna get out of this litigation, and we lost the legal services funding, we would have lost legal services. We still couldn't have pursued the class action litigation, the heirs litigation, because we didn't have any money to do so.
Yeah.
And a lot of people to this day misunderstand that concept. I'm still blamed by some people, pretty powerful people, for legal services withdrawing from the case. But it wasn't an option. It wasn't a choice. It was, do we not help anyone and just go extinct, shut the doors? We don't help heirs case. We don't help the individuals. We just go out of business. That was the choice we were given. Get out of class action and stay afloat, keep the employees hired, and try to help the people we could. But we just couldn't do class action. So that choice was made for us. It wasn't a choice I made. It was a choice that Congress made and the Legal Services Corporation enforced upon us with our funding.
And what was the time period for this action by Congress? And you remember approximately?
I would say it was probably around, I'm gonna guess around 95, 96. That's just a good guess. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I think it's around 95, 96.
What were the years that you were executive director?
But for 1990, I think 1990 to 91, I was acting. In 91 to 98. July of 1998, I was executive director.
You're probably at least the third longest running director, maybe, or second or third, do you think?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Ben has been there a long time.
Right. Ben has been the longest, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you were there during that time when the federal funds were diminishing.
Right. We were taking, and we took another big cut. Yeah.
Go ahead with that.
Oh yeah, we took another financial cut, probably about, I would say 96 or so, because then we had to close offices We reduced our branch offices, I believe, to, we had 10. I know we reduced to at least 5 at that time. And we had to reduce some personnel. Of course, those were hard choices.
Right, but you're trying to keep almost all of the attorneys and
Right, we kept the attorneys, all that could stay and work within the configuration of the new office locations, you know, because some obviously couldn't drive. If you closed the office, the next closest office that they were offered employment, you know, may have been too far for them. But otherwise, we kept all the attorneys. We kept as many paralegals as we could. And we tried to keep as, you know, as much staff as we could, but of course some positions and programs we had to cut.
I guess you had special challenges because it's such a rural, vast area.
Right.
Trying to deal with that change.
Yeah. We have 39 county service area, all of and all rural. So it was challenging, you know.
Yeah.
So, but we had a good staff, you know, that tried to help. We had for the most part, a very supportive board of directors that knew this had to happen, and we had a lot of meetings you know, we all had a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out just what we needed to do and what was the best solution, and we did the best we could. Money available.
It's your interview, not mine, but I think we did too. It seems to me that we can continue to provide services throughout.
Right.
It was a very difficult situation.
It was.
From Tishomingo County all the way over to Tunica, to down south of Greenville, yes. Louisville, all the way down.
Exactly. Yes. Right. So it was, it was literally the northern half of the state, you know. So it was a tough decision.
Yeah.
But we made it through it and still tried to serve the whole 39 counties. We just had fewer offices, you know, but we still made every effort to serve.
And I think you did. Yeah.
Thanks.
I think you did. And so kind of coming back out from that to another broader question. What do you think might have been different in the northern half of the state if there had never been a legal services, just from your perspective? What difference did it make having this program?
It made a it made a difference. We got schools desegregated, things integrated, you know, so that's monumental. I mean, those things were not happening, you know, regardless of Brown versus Board of Education. Those things were not happening in a lot of these rural areas, and North Mississippi Rural Legal Services was instrumental in those efforts, and getting agencies to hire minority workers, state agencies to hire Black employees or other minorities. You know, legal services was a part of that. So in every fiber of, even though that was before my tenure, you know, there, I know, you know, I've heard of the cases. I know of the cases. I've seen the cases in the doing research, you know. So legal services has just been a lifesaver to many people. We've saved homes. I bet thousands of homes that were being foreclosed on. And I can't even, you know, the number of people that needed transportation to get to work and bought these vehicles and were sold vehicles that were no good that we were able to, either get them reliable transportation or get their money back so they could get reliable transportation. I mean, the impact of saving families from domestic abuse situations, trying to help children with, being stable households, helping disabled people receive Social Security benefits. I mean, it's a lifesaver. Saving homes, saving lives, saving. I mean, just providing relief, just just daily necessities that this program had, that Legal Services, North Mississippi Rural Legal Services had. It is just, you can't, it's just has provided every, it's just been involved in every level of relief in North Mississippi over 50 years. It has provided, like I say, kept people in their homes, stable environments, consumer issues, getting the disability resources they need to live, getting the medical care they need. Legal Services just been involved in everything that we need on a daily basis for existence.
Right. I recall, I think it was during your tenure, we had task forces, and that there was a change in Social Security, children's benefit rules, and I think I was designated by you to work with the state agency that made those decisions.
Yeah.
And non-litigation kinds of things we did. The child disability determinations favorable to the children increased from last in the nation to like middle, sort of the medium 50% level during that time. And of course, you got no big case to show, but it's something we did.
Right, yeah. And then, of course, you got the money for the elderly project, that you ran for years, and that's still there, that, that we were able to help the elderly population. And that was not income based. So, you did that. And, so you've been there every step of the way, pretty much, for the most part. So.
But I think it's proper to say that our program has succeeded in a lot of ways because of the quality of the leadership, including yours. And I think that has to be said.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Do you think, what do you think the impact of working at our program had on your life?
Well, I think it had a great impact because when I first started here, I was hired when Calvin Buck Buchanan was U.S. attorney.
Right.
And when he hired me, he hired me as a assistant U.S. attorney. But within a few months, he moved me to be his executive assistant. And I think it was a lot. And I did, then I was working with the executive officer of the United States Attorney in DC. I was working over the administrative division of this office. And so it was I think it was my management experience from Legal Services that he trusted for me to be his executive assistant and to do to make sure we had policies up to date policies, and the administrative division, the civil division, the criminal division, to make sure that, we had victim witness policies, law enforcement coordination policies, and I was, supervised those projects at the time. So, and was just a liaison with the executive office and Department of Justice to make sure, we were doing what we were supposed to do, finding out any resources that was available that, to our offices, and just working with the different departments there. and I think it was all based on the experience I gained over the years from legal services, because like I say, I staff attorney, managing attorney, then, executive director. And so it was, I got my, say I could, legal services gave me that experience. It gave me those opportunities. And I was able to use them during his tenure as a U.S. attorney here, as his executive assistant. So for several years, for about 3 years, I was an executive assistant U.S. attorney, but now I'm, back to the assistant, just to the regular assistant U.S. attorney. But it was because of legal services and the experience there that I was able to do those things here.
Great. Did you notice any, your during your time at legal services, was there any progressive action or progress in the relationship with the established bar in
Yeah.
Mississippi, do you think?
I think there was some. We had a diverse bar, and we had some diverse board, a board of directors for legal service, and I think those that we had were truly interested and wanted the program to survive, and we went to bar meetings seeking support for legal services, and we had some that were very vocal and spoke out on behalf of this program. So yeah, there were some people that, being on the board, got to actually see what we did and see the importance of what we did, and see the impact it had on poor people, and see that we were not in competition with the local bar. These people couldn't have been their clients anyway. They didn't have the resources, so it was not that we were taking in. They saw the asset, and then they didn't want to deal with them because they didn't want to have to do all this pro bono work. I mean, well, they wouldn't be able to because of the number of people that legal services served. And so that when people actually allowed themselves to see what legal services did and the impact it had for people that just literally had nothing, most of them were on board and would speak out in support of the program.
Yeah. So, what else would you like to tell us about your time at legal services?
Well, I think it was probably, I would say it was probably the most rewarding part of my career. At least it certainly allowed me to progress on. And, I'll always, I met some, and the people I worked with there and will be lifelong friends of mine, like you, Jenny. I mean, you and, and your husband, Rance, I could call either one of you right now.
Sure.
And I called Jenny, can you see if Rance will come? And and you talk to Rance and if I know if I call you coming. So and I hope you feel the same way. And there's other people at legal services, that, I mean, it was just a lifelong connection, that we make when you work there. It's more than just a job. You got friends, you got family. And I felt that way about it. But, a lot of people there. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. What do you have anything you'd like to share with the young folks coming up that are going into the practice of law, from all of your experiences?
I would tell them, don't write legal services off, because it's still a good place to, it may not be a career for some people, as it was for us, but I think it's still a good place to get a start, to good place to realize that there are people out there that don't have, sometimes we think we are poor, and I would, I would have qualified for legal services coming up. But then there are some people that, even as poor as we thought we were, are worse off than that. And so that there's a whole segment. So I would say just don't write it off. And I'm hoping one day that, the funding would be there where people would get paid their worth, because it's really dedicated people there that's still there, that I know work hard, that I know that they're dedicated, that I know that, could succeed anywhere, but they chose to, continue with that work. And we need that, and we need that. So I would just say to anybody, don't write it off. You'll be really, it's really rewarding work, and you'll be surprised about how much you learn.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us your interview today. And so we'll, I guess, conclude the interview unless you have something else.
Well, I just hope it made sense.
Oh, it did. It did.
I enjoyed it. I thank you for thinking of me and allowed me this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay.